Okay, so we are on day 11 of Sichos HaRan. We're up to Sicha Zion. Again, this week's Shiurim are sponsored by Mark Cantora as a refuah shlema for Yoni ben Avram Avinu. He should have a complete, easy, and smooth recovery. B'soch Shar Chale Yisrael. And we begin in the middle of the workday by switching gears, taking a breath, trying to leave ourselves open to whatever Rabbi Nachman's teachings might bring up for us right now. Sicha Zion begins as follows. He says, Tov ma'od mi sheyachol lishboch sicho lefnei Hashem yizbach barachamim v'tachanunim. It's very, very good that for a person or that a person is able to pour out their words in front of before HaKadosh Baruch Hu with rachamim and tachanunim, with pleadings and with seeking mercy. Kiben hamischata lifnei aviv, doing so like a child that has wronged, has done a wrong, has done something wrong in front of their parent, in front of their father. Ki halo Hashem yisbarach kavar karanu banim, k'moshe kasu banim atem laHashem elokechem. Because after all, Rabbi Nachman says, after all, Hashem Himself has called us children. As the pasuk says, you are children, banim atem, you are children, laHashem elokechem, to Hashem your God. And since HaKadosh Baruch Hu has called us that, it's good to engage that way. It's good to connect that way. In a certain sense, we could say that a person who is able to bring themselves to engage and relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in terms of a ben and an av, like a child in front of a father, that person is making themselves into a merkava for a particular aspect of the Shekhinah. That person is, through their own experience and through their own consciousness, actually making this pasuk true. Banim atem laHashem elokechem is true on a metaphysical level, but like many things in Pnimius HaTorah, so much depends on perception and actualization. And so while it may be existentially true, it's not really real until I do it. And so for me to do it makes it real here in this world and causes me and my experience and the way I relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to become the vehicle and the mechanism by which that pasuk, Banim atem laHashem elokechem, is literally made true through me. I become a merkava l'shechina. I become a kli for the gilui of that particular R, of that kinoi, of that way of expressing the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through this dynamic of banim and av. And therefore, al kain, tov ma'od lefaresh sicho v'tzaro lefanav yisbarach. It's very good to articulate and express and explain what you're trying to say, sichaso, your words, v'tzaro, and your pain and your challenge and your difficulty in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, kiben shakuba lifnei aviv betenuos shel chen v'rachamim, like a son that's being a son or a child that's being received in front of their parent with movements of love, with actions of love, with expressions of love and mercy. And even though so many times it appears to us that we are not like children in front of a father, that our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not one of a child and a parent, even though sometimes we may be embarrassed and ashamed to approach HaKadosh Baruch Hu like a child in front of a parent, as if we have a real relationship, because we've torn that relationship and broken that relationship. And even though sometimes we experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu not as a parent, not as a loving parent ready to receive us and ready to hear us, and for whom every single word that pours out of our mouth is important and valuable, but rather like a melech, or a dayan, like a judge, like a king, like someone in a position of authority, We experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes as harsh. We experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes as being in control or as even controlling, as someone we experience a distance from as a subject and a ruler, as a subject and an object, and we are just objects of God's design and of God's will. And God is playing with us or using us or manipulating us or controlling us. And so we don't feel like we have this parent-child relationship, even though so many times that's the case. Im kol zeh, nevertheless, Halo Hashem Yisbarach karanu banim. Regardless of that, the truth is, and at the end of the day, although we may not be feeling a parent-child relationship, at the end of the day, Hashem himself has called us his children. Canal, as we explained above. Ki ben kach uben kach koruyim lecha banim. Because as the Gemara in Kedushin says, there's a machlokus brought down in Kedushin between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says that the pasuk of Banim Atem Hashem Elokechem only refers to when we are acting like Banim. When I'm acting like your child, so then you treat me like your child, and then you're my parent. But when I'm not acting like your child, when I'm disobeying, when I'm misbehaving, when I'm distancing myself from you, so then I'm not your child, and I'm treated accordingly, says Rabbi Yehuda. But Rabbi Meir comes along and says, Bein kach ubein kach atem koruyim banim. It doesn't matter what you're doing, and he brings many proofs to this from Navi. It doesn't matter what you're doing, and it doesn't matter how you're acting, and it doesn't matter what distance you've created in the relationship. Bein kach ubein kach koruyim atem banim. It doesn't matter, and you are in a parent-child relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as a parent-child relationship really truly is. There's nothing that can be done to destroy the parent-child relationship. The child is born, and the child is the parent's child forever and ever and ever. Distance can be created, but you're still a child. You can be estranged, but you're still a child, and they are still a parent. They may not act like it, you may not act like it, but the relationship fundamentally is still there. Vimata hu migaresh osi, and if you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you're going to banish me, if you're going to send me away, chas v'shalom, v'chinas ben, if you're going to banish me from experiencing you as a child, experience as a parent and relates to a parent, hatov be'enav yasa, so I'm avatal myself to you, I give up. If that's what you're going to do, then that's what's going to happen, because I'm not in control, you're in control. And if that's how you want me to experience you right now, not as a parent, but in some harsher kind of way or in some other kind of expression, then so be it. However, alai lasos es shali, lasos atzmi keben. But I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do is conduct myself and try to relate to you. And I'm going to come back to you like a child. Even though it may not appear to the child that they're deserving of having this parent-child relationship, nevertheless, it doesn't matter. The child says, I don't care. Azus de Kedusha, as Rabbi Nachman so often says, holy chutzpah, brazenness towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that says, Ani es shali, I'm going to do what I need to do. You do what you need to do, but I'm going to do what I need to do. What you're doing is not going to banish me. Your reaction to me, or my sense that you are creating distance between me and you because of my actions, in my better sense of self, I'm not going to give in to that, and I'm not going to pay attention to that. And if it seems to me like you're banishing me, you may very well be doing so, but don't have to give in to that. I don't have to give in and acknowledge and accept that you're banishing me. I'm going to knock on the door anyway, and I'm going to come back. And therefore, it's so very good, and how valuable it is for a person to be able to awaken themselves and enliven themselves and work themselves up, because when this distance is experienced and when this sense of unworthiness is experienced, it's very, very difficult to step in and say, I'm going to do me, you do you, and I'm going to do me, and I'm going to show up like a child. It's very, very hard, especially when one is feeling rejected. Nevertheless, I am going to do me. One has to work themselves up, or how valuable and beneficial it is to work yourself up to the point where you can awaken your heart, which is the locus, the site of real connection and distance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It all happens in the heart. Such that until you can open yourself up and you cry and pour out tears like a child in front of a father, to rekindle that relationship, to actually actualize that relationship. As soon as that relationship is actualized b'poel, so then it's real again. All that it takes is actualizing it. All that it takes is being a ben, and then suddenly you are a ben, because the ben is real. It doesn't matter what's been done. All that matters is how I am perceiving the situation. If I perceive the situation as distant, then indeed I'm experiencing distance. And if I perceive the situation as closeness, then indeed I'm experiencing closeness. And if I'm currently experiencing distance, all I need to really do is generate a sense of closeness within myself, to push myself in whatever ways I need to push myself, to generate a genuine, not internally, right? Kishiyachala or a libo, to generate internally within my own heart a sense of closeness, and then that closeness becomes real, and my entire being and consciousness and body and soul and emotions and intellect all become a vehicle collectively for the actualization again of this relationship of banim latem la Hashem Elokeichem. Okay, that was paragraphs Aleph and Beis of Sicha Zion. We're going to stop here, and Bezras Hashem will finish up Sicha Zion tomorrow, paragraphs Gimel and Dalet. Have a wonderful day.